Do you regard black magic as being purely fictitious, or is there some truth in it?
Some truth. 100% truth. There is nothing fictitious about black magic, in any way whatever. It is a fact. It is a fact which has existed for several thousand years. I mean, when we talk about black magic, we are talking about Satanism, necromancy, alchemy, witchcraft, the worship of Satan.
Okay, so the first thing you need to know is that when you start to tumble down words to find all of their different iterations and meanings, before you do anything, you need to do two things first. First thing you need to do is remove all of the vowels from any word that you're trying to decipher. Because if you're attempting to find its root meaning or the root glyph, then that's the way you go about it. And you might ask why. Well, remember that the people that run the music industry, the news industry, the food companies, the tech companies are all Kabbalists. They're all dark magicians. And as I've already told you, Kabbalah is a Jewish practice. And when you go back to ancient Hebrew, you see that there are no vowels whatsoever. So in order to understand these words in their original context, in the same context as the Kabbalist does, then you need to move how they move. So you take out the vowels. That's the first step. That's how you find the root glyph, okay? The second thing we must do is tumble through the different vowels in a word, because all vowels are interchangeable. Remember, if the root of the word lies in the consonants, and this word literally contains the concept within because it's a play on words, these letters are constant, so they are consonants, the ones that always remain constant. And if the root of the word remains in that, then we can flip through the things that are interchangeable, which would be the vowels. For instance, distraction and destruction are the same word because it is the consonants that remain and the vowels that change. Basically, this is just going to be a one-on-one on how to deconstruct words in a variety of ways. And we're touching on the Commonwealth and the big BAAL they pulled out. Okay, so let's take the name BAAL, B-A-A-L. See, there are two vowels in this name. Take those out, we're left with B-L. Now, first I didn't really think of anything to do with BL, but then the colour blue came to my head. And blue is a significant colour in Freemasonry because Masons start their journey in a symbolic lodge known as the Blue Lodge. And this is where individuals receive their first Masonry degrees. Not only that, but I remember when Jay-Z literally bought a shade of blue, which is like the most random shit in the world. Who does that? So there's definitely something to this colour. It's highly symbolic because you also have the term blue bloods. Notice how blood always also shows that BO as well, just like BAAL. You can also look at the numerical value of BL, which would be 212, but that would be more of a gematria thing, and I'm speaking strictly about ciphering and tumbling at the moment. But here are a few things that do sum to 212. So we've found the constants or the consonants or the main glyphs, and that's BL for BAAL. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that BAAL was a deity from the Phoenician and Canaanite pantheon. We'll get into the word Canaan soon in the next part. And there's a lot of confusion surrounding BAAL and the word El. Many people think they're interchangeable, and I've touched on this before, so I'm not going into it again. Like I said, I believed at one time they were, but things have changed now. But just for the sake of this video, we'll take BAAL and El as synonymous, okay? And BAAL is represented by the bull. He's the bull god, he's the horn god. And we've been over this in my previous videos, so again, I'm not going in too deep on this because this is mostly about the words. As you all know, BAAL was the chief deity of child sacrifice at the time. So we have BL, BAAL, BAAL, and BL. Now, if we start switching out vowels, put a U there, we get bull. So both root words are BL, BAAL, and bull. Switch the vowels around, you can untuck it, so now you know why BAAL is represented by the bull. You can switch out another vowel and go to Bel, B-E-L. And I've told you guys before that this is another name for BAAL, Bel, and we touched on this in my video about MK and Bel Air. That is a thinly voweled reference to the heir of BAAL, and we will circle back to Will Smith later on in the second part when we talk about Canaan, because if you know, Cain was the first blacksmith, and if you notice, Will Smith's name is Will Smith, as in Will blacksmith, Will Smith anything. So there's heavy Canaanite symbology bloodline going on there with Will Smith, but we'll get to that in the next part. And now, when I mentioned in my community post, we had the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games, and I'll just play a clip of that now.
It is time now for the 2022 Commonwealth Games opening ceremony here at the Alexander Stadium in Birmingham. Let's hand you over to Hazel Irvine and Andrew Cotter.
Now, this is the way to arrive in the stadium, a rich history of car manufacturing in the Midlands. The Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall to represent Her Majesty the Queen tonight. Now time to meet Stella and the Dreamers.
And they're going to meet some of the key figures from Brum's history.
Worcester's dear Edward Elgar dreamed the music of our nation.
We'll talk about the Midlands' claim to Charlie Chaplin.
Samuel Johnson.
8 years to compile 40,000 words.
For his dictionary.
When I first came to this city, I had never heard its name. But I would come to understand it through the doctors and nurses at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. It is my honor to say, welcome to Birmingham.
But of course, for all the colour and noise, the characters, the invention, there was a dark side to the Industrial Revolution, a darker side to the bull ring.
As the beat pounds to remind us of the relentless drive of industry, they drag a beast, a bull, 10 metres high.
And enraged by injustice, the bull breaks free and causes pandemonium.
Bulls were baited and sold here in the city centre for centuries.
It's no doubt going to be up to Stella and the Dreamers to try and halt the bull.
Stella offers friendship and compassion to tame the beast.
As you all know, that is BAAL, and the reason why they have made it look so clearly mechanical when they could have stuck with a more realistic approach is, without a doubt, in my mind, a head nod to the coming age of technology that is being thrust upon us, and how a lot of these entities are actually being brought into this dimension through AI. Now, why is BAAL at the Commonwealth? Why the fuck is BAAL at the Commonwealth? That's a good question. Well, notice a lot of these games they play, well, in fact, a lot of games in general, sports games are played with balls. They're ball games, okay? Ball games. Cipher, tumble, BAAL games. Same word, ball and BAAL are the same thing. These games are for BAAL, which is why BAAL was in the opening ceremony. And to back this up even further, we can see that Commonwealth and BAAL games are a double match, not by accident. And in this video, you can also see them bowing to BAAL as well. Again, remember I said words are phonetically the same. We bow to BAAL. It's all in the words. Another phonetically similar word to Baal, as in the god, is the word Baal, as in our bowels, in our stomach, okay? Now, our bowels are in the lower realms of our body, and if we were to draw a line that divides our body horizontally, our bowels would be in the lower regions, or the lower realms, for lack of a better word. Now, the lower realm of our body deals with the first 3 chakras, from root up to our stomach, and after that you reach the 4th chakra, which is the heart, but nobody's close to that anymore, and I will tell you why in a few seconds. Remember the images of Christ they used to show to us with his heart out? That's about the heart chakra. And we've spoken about this in previous videos before. I told you why they used the green heart for the Grenfell attack. It's a direct attack on the heart chakra because the heart remembers trauma. Christ rules from the heart up. So to reach Christ consciousness energy is to be ruled from the higher regions of yourself, and not to be dwelling in the lower realms, which would be obviously the lower 3 chakras. So from 4 to 7, that's all upper realms, or as you would say, heaven, and the lower realms, which are situated in the stomach, would be hell, which are ruled by Baal, or the bowels. Now, as I was just saying, we are kept in the lower realms of our body. Our energy system has been stagnated for various reasons, and one of the most prevalent is because of the food that we eat. Okay, all the fast food, all the shit that we eat, all the meat, all the sweets, they're all poison, and we all know that. If you're in a conspiracy theory community, you know that they get us through the food. But you don't understand this metaphysical level of how the Baal actually represents Baal, the deity, and the lower realms of our body actually represents hell, because the stomach is the pit, it's the gut, we have a brain in our stomach that they don't tell you about, and that's where they're attacking us. They're keeping us in the lower realms, in hell, through the food. And I mean, it's not hard to see if you're over there in the US. It's not difficult to see the parallels between diet and life expectancy, you know. we're controlled through our bowels. We're controlled through bow. Bow. Bow, bow, bow. I'm going to say that 1,000,000 times. And that's why bowels and humans are a four-way match, because they know that any type of spiritual advancement, when any type of spiritual advancement is made, you typically have to have your diet in check, and we're all just fed death, literally. The vast majority of us are probably vibrating on the lowest scale of the spectrum. And it's the reason why die is in the word diet, and it's the reason why die is in the word digestion. That is not the first three letters for no reason. They know what they're doing. They're killing us with the food. It's just a spiritual death. So they use the bowels to control, or bow, and they do this to drag us down to our lowest energy points, leaving us in a state of anger and confusion and making you easily malleable and highly suggestible. That is hell, okay? So we're taken below to the lower realms through the bow. And when we're taken below, we bow to L. Split the word, bow. So we're all bowing to L every day through the bowels, getting taken below, which is again why bow and below are a four-way match. Like I said, the real brain is actually in our gut. That's where the phrase "you are what you eat" comes from. And fast food is probably the biggest contributor to this. Fast food, FF, that's 66. We know about this number, okay? Digestive system also sums to 66. So you can see why they have the same numerical value here, because they're attacking us through our digestive system with the fast food. Not only that, but I just told you that we're all worshipping Baal through the food, right? Well, we've already spoken in previous videos about the links between Baal and Saturn. Well, Saturn worship and digestive system are a two-way match as well. And you can literally pull all this information out of Ciphering and Tumbling through the word Baal. Okay, and before I end this, let's just circle back to the idea of ball games or Baal games. Remember, ball is Baal. Now, the vast majority of sports that take up primetime TV are all played with a ball, right? And these athletes become the biggest superstars in the world. Basketball, football players, baseball players. You know, they all live very comfortable lives and in turn are presented to us as something that we should strive to be. And I don't really have to tell you guys that sports personalities are worshipped like gods. They are the new gods. And these games that they play are very symbolic because they, like I said, involve balls. Now, ball, a sphere, that glyph is representative of the world. Any ball represents a world. So in all of these games where they have a ball or a world, they're throwing it or kicking it into a net. Yeah, just throwing the world into a net, kicking the ball into a net, wasting time doing absolutely fuck all. But does that sound similar to kind of what's happening with the stuff that I spoke about with the moon matrix and the planned net of the planet? All these sports games throwing fake metaphysical worlds into nets. You see what they've done there? It's very clever. Sports is just one big fucking distraction for you to get caught up in and kept in your lower realms. And this is why one of the biggest football players' name on earth is Gareth Bale, who is Welsh, okay? And you know about the Welsh flag because it's got the red dragon on there. We spoke about the red dragon. Yeah, I think Dragon, Baal, Z. Yeah, you see, when you start to consciously absorb these words, they just sort of pop up to you in every single facet, and you can see them everywhere. Now, one more thing. Notice with the NFL, phonetically, F and PH are the exact same. So NFL is NPHL, and NPHL is Nephilim. You see, these guys love to leave their signature all over the place, and we know the Nephilim were the giants, right? Well, I guess you guys now know why we have the NFL team Giants. Right, this was just an introductory video to show how this series is going to go. In the next part, we're going to look at the word Canaan and Cain and all of its variations. And yeah, we're going to pull that apart. We're also going to look at Baphomet. And part 2 will be out shortly. Just, yeah, let me know if you want me to carry this on.